let's talk about how you can confidently stop an analytical hypnosis client from talking too much. We've all had those sessions where a client just word vomits information out, and you're like, "What the fuck do I do with all of that? Where do I focus on?" And it gets quite overwhelming. So today I'm going to give you three tips, and the third one is going to be one that most people are going to be uncomfortable with, but very, very effective. So let's just start it off. The very, very first thing that you want to do is to put aside the notion and those beliefs that a breakthrough has to look like or sound like a certain way. We know that each and every person is different, right? However, if we have expectations and preconceived notions and biases with regards to how a session will look like, that can negatively affect our sessions. Meaning, if we think that our clients need to be in a completely relaxed, somnambulistic state, that they are just going to be calm throughout the whole session, that is an expectation that does not match and is not required for a breakthrough to happen. And a lot of people will argue with me around this, especially in the hypnosis world where we were taught to relax and do all of that bullshit all the time. It is not a prerequisite. I have had extremely fidgety clients who are analytical, who are like very fidgety and moving a lot in the session, eyes open, still received the breakthrough. What I teach my students is how to work with clients in general instead of making them do the thing that their technique uses and then expect the clients to fit into that box. A big one is progressive muscle relaxation, right? Sometimes that's just not necessary for a breakthrough, especially with analytical clients. We're talking about analytical clients here, right? A lot of them will have a very difficult time calming down. So instead of wasting time calming them down, how about we utilize that time instead to help them resolve a problem? And so this is really something that is quite different to grasp because it's very different from what is taught out there. But once you actually work with that client, with that analytical client, and just allow them to be, how much more rapport are you going to build? How much more trust are you going to build over someone, with someone who is just naturally fidgety? Like personally, I fidget a lot. And that is just who I am. And that is how I express myself. And if to someone were to be like, let's relax you for 45 minutes, no, thank you, I'm going to go to someone else. So stop putting that aside and working with your client in front of you is step number one and a very important step because if we have these expectations for our clients, we're going to trigger their unconscious resistance, which then for some people, from some analytical clients, will just allow them to word vomit out as a form of a coping mechanism or as a form of resistance, right? So that is what's going to prevent a resistance from happening. You just working with a client in front of you instead of putting them in a box of the techniques that you've learned from your trainings, work with a client. That just makes sense, right? They're going to be more comfortable with you. That is the first step. Second step is learning what in the conversation is conscious versus unconscious. An analytical client will focus more on the conscious aspects, right? The symptom level problem. And so when you're able to visualize or hear unconscious expressions, then you're more likely to make them stop the all the conscious chatter, right? So instead of asking them questions about them getting mad about the dishes not being done by their partner, which is more conscious, and a lot of them are going to say, yeah, like logically, I know that the dishes need to be done, but I'm so mad at my partner because of this. And they go into this venting of how mad they are that the dishes aren't done when we know know that that's just a symptom, if we keep on asking about the damn dishes, that's not going to help them, right? And so you really want to improve that skill of observing what actually happens to your clients internally as that happens, and ask them questions about that. So what are some unconscious cues of communication that you have learned from your training, right? One big one is emotions. So instead of you asking them about the dishes, play into their emotions if they actually talk about it. And maybe they're like, I'm so mad at my partner for not doing the dishes, then focus on them feeling mad, right? Ask them questions about being mad. What are you mad about? Are you always mad? How do you know that you're actually mad at your partner? Those types of questions are going to help them pause and reflect on that question. And because you're asking about emotion, they are more likely to answer unconscious information, right? Because you're asking about an unconscious process. And so that would be one thing to stop the chatter, focusing the direction of your question towards more unconscious information. And third, the unconventional one is interrupt. Interrupt your clients. And I mean it this way. Your client goes, blah, 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 the dishes aren't done, blah, 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 blah. And you hear something like really juicy within that chatter. They're talking about the dishes and they say that, I just feel small or something within that. And you're like, that perks you up, that makes you really curious about what do they mean by they feel very small. But your client is like word vomiting still things and venting about like the dishes not being done and blah 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 blah, and you hear something about I just feel very small, blah 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 blah. You're gonna be like, whoa, wait, just wait 1 second. What did you mean by feeling small? And so you interrupt the conscious chatter specifically with what you learned in tip 2, which is the unconscious information. If you hear that unconscious information about client feeling small, you're going to be like, wait, you just said something really interesting there. And obviously, don't be a rude dick about it, right? Just be like, wait. You just said something about feeling small. Tell me more about that. Ask it that way where you're just feeling very interested and curious, because that tone, how you present that question, is really going to make the client pause and go more unconscious and internal, which then will eventually stop that conscious chatter. The better you are at asking questions and the more you hit them with really strategic unconscious eliciting type of questions. So I hope that these three helped. These are the things that definitely take skill to practice, that takes a lot of repetition to do, because we are not taught this traditionally. So try these three things out. Put aside what transformation looks like, what a technique needs to be for analytical clients. There is no such thing. Get better at discerning what is conscious versus unconscious information. And last but not least, interrupt that conscious chatter, because that is very, very detrimental for clients, and instead focus their attention on their unconscious expressions to allow for deeper self-discovery. So I hope this helps. Let me know how that goes once you actually take action on this, and I will see you around.